I am Bryce Newberger, and this is the Kinship Chronicles, Children of the Phoenix, Chapter 15. Alone, cold, left for dead. These are the words that played through Winston's head. He had chased after the children but was losing too much blood. Forced to turn back, he was now on the outskirts of town, making his way to either the town medic or Captain Bird. Winston wasn't too sure which. He seemed to have lost all sense of direction. Not knowing whether it was due to blood loss, fatigue, or the fact that the town was shrouded in darkness, he decided he would go any which way that felt familiar. He took a pitiful self-inventory. He had been punched, robbed, vandalized, and mutilated. He had had enough and decided that he was going to destroy Ada, Eldrich, and their whole family if it was the last thing he did. After that epiphany, he tripped over something. He caught himself with an amputated hand and squealed in pain. "How worse can this day get?" Winston screamed as he looked to see what he had stumbled over. It was the corpse of the town medic. Someone had run him through with a sword. Winston grew pale at this realization. He turned to run but found himself face to face with a soldier in silver armor. He was then cut down without a second glance. His dying vision was that of soldiers marching and the town burning. Dazon wiped the blood from his sword using Isabel's tunic. He looked over at the children and had a slight pang of remorse that his dirty business happened in front of them. But they were safe and would be stronger for it. The little girl and boy ran out of the house and into the woods. He wondered if he should go after them, then decided that the farther they were from him, the safer they'd be. He had business at the Mages Guild. Amora and Teddy ran towards the town, bent on finding their parents wherever they were. Teddy was crying and terrified. That is what kept Amora somewhat composed. She felt like she had to keep herself calm to take care of Teddy. They made it into town and felt a sliver of safety, though nothing would settle them completely until they were together as a family again. Where was Cal? Where was Eldrich? Everyone was spread out and disjointed. Forcing herself to think, Amora chose to check the guardhouse first. Maybe her parents were still there. As they got closer to the middle of the town, they noticed orange light on the horizon. Was it morning already? She wondered. Amora could smell smoldering wood like a bonfire, and ashes were floating in the air. Her gut sank as she realized the town was burning. People could be heard yelling and screaming in the distance. Sounds of struggle resounded, and chaos seemed to permeate through the air. Two soldiers in silver armor rounded a corner as they chased down a woman. It was Trina, the mother of Amora's friend Erica. Amora had been to their house many times after her learnings. The children looked on in horror as they knocked her to the ground and stabbed her to death. They then turned and ran directly at them. Frozen in trauma, the kids couldn't move. The first soldier brought his sword down in a menacing swing right at Teddy's head. Little Teddy stared up with pouty, innocent eyes that were lost on the faceless killer. The sword's trajectory was halted as another sword intercepted the blow. The soldier didn't have time to see the Cyborii bard, Chanik, follow up his block with decapitation. The other soldier crossed blades with the cyborg, but was quickly outmatched as Chanik parried the blade and kicked the man using a robotic leg with a force that sent him crushing into the solid cobblestone wall of a nearby shop. His robotic eye glowed red. "Come, children, let's find your parents," he said with a smile. The children were timid, but Chanik ignored that and picked Teddy up in one strong arm and his other hand disassembled, then whirled around until it produced a robotic hand for Amora to grab. She stared at the animatronic appendage with apprehension. Chanik gave her a smile and a wink with his real eye. She frowned back but grabbed the cold hand. He led them to the guardhouse, avoiding soldiers wherever possible by ducking behind buildings and going through others where possible. He did his best to shield their vision from the carnage and death of friends and loved ones being massacred as they fled. As the overly capable and heroic bard led the children to safety, Amora had a moment to think. In just one day, her whole world had been shaken. While yesterday she had just to worry about a mean bully, this morning her father was ripped from her home, and tonight her world was literally on fire. Her mind clung to the impossible hope of her family meeting up and being safe together again. Her conscience raced through scenarios that her brothers and parents were probably going through. Was little Cal brave as he always was? Was Eldrich protecting him? Was her mother with her father? So much uncertainty surrounded everything. She didn't even know what lied around the next corner. Would it be salvation or death? She looked up and realized they had stopped. "What's going on?" she asked, but was only answered with a shush. Looking forward, she saw her father and mother faced by 3 murderous soldiers. Chanic set Teddy down. "Now, children, stay right here." They were behind a stack of crates in an alley behind the guardhouse. Her father looked like he was in pain. His face and shirt were covered in dark blood, and her mother looked like she had been rolling around in the mud. Chanic left the children behind him and crept up the side of the building using a claw-like appendage. Bryn was wielding Captain Bird's unique flail. Chanic wondered how the prisoner got it from the captain, but then decided it was probably best not to know. He settled into a crouching position on the roof, prepared to jump on the middle soldier, then dispatch the other 2 in surprise. But his plans were rendered irrelevant by Bryn's actions. The farthest left soldier lunged at Ada, who was standing behind her husband, though she looked unreasonably calm. Bryn swung the flail at the sword, and the chain of his weapon wrapped around the blade. He pulled the weapon from the soldier's grasp, using the momentum to block a strike from the middle soldier. Now, with the sword in his right hand and a flail in his left, he parried another blow from the middle soldier, and then stabbed the right one underneath the helmet between the plating. Continuing his fluid motions, he wrapped his flail around the middle one's head, and with a strong jerk, he broke the soldier's neck. He ended by placing his sword at the last unarmed assailant's chest. After seeing his elite companions being dispatched in under a second, and he, without a weapon, hesitated. Before either decided to act, Chanic dropped onto the soldier from above, crushing him with his surprisingly heavy metallic-imbued form. "Eldrich?" said Bryn in surprise. As he spoke, it could be seen that wire had been inserted in his mouth, but was recently clipped open. Talking must have been very painful for him. "Bryn?" Chanic said in awe of the lethal blacksmith. "I had no idea you were so skilled in combat." "Long story," Bryn responded. "Have you seen my—" "Mama! Papa!" yelled Amora as she and Teddy ran from cover and embraced their parents. The family shared a group hug accompanied by tears. Ada then asked with urgency, "Where's Cal and Eldrich?" "Soldiers are coming," interrupted Chanic. Bryn stood up and faced the alley where a group of 10 soldiers were approaching. "Where is Cal and Eldrich?" Ada persisted, clutching her other children close. "Go," Chanic told Bryn. "Find your children and get out of here." "What about you?" said Bryn, though he was already beginning to step away. "Me?" Chanic's eye glowed red with murder again. "I'll be just fine. Now go." The family retreated down the back alley into the combined alley system behind the shops. Chanic turned towards the 10 soldiers with a sword held in his fleshy hand and a blade produced from his metal arm. "Brave of you all to face me," he said using a grandiose bard tone. "Tell me, have you ever faced a Cyborii before?" The front soldier was taller than the rest. He wore a red cape. His voice was whispery, yet audible over the chaos. "Yes," replied General Fallhurst. The family got to the end of the accessway where it opened up to the wide streets filled with soldiers. "This is going to be dangerous," Bryn told his family, wincing against the effort to talk as blood seeped from his mouth wounds. "You have no idea," came a voice from the alley they had just passed. Out stepped a hulking beast man. It was Skadel. He was wielding his punching dagger. Bryn stood with his sword raised in defense. "Well, it looks like all is gone to the pit, so's I might's well tell you my secret. I killed Smythe." "Ada, get the children to safety. I'll be right behind you," commanded Bryn. Ada hesitated to move. "I'm not leaving you." "This won't take long," said Bryn as a deep red rushed into his eyes, giving them an eerie blood-raged look. "No, it won't." There was a sound of a hammer pulled back on a flintlock pistol. The family turned their gaze back to Skadel. He was holding the gun that Amora and Teddy had found in the house. "When all went south, I went to finish some business at your home. I found this." He was aiming at Bryn. As a frantic mother, Ada jumped to conclusions and asked, "Where are my other children?" Skadel thought about the question, then looked like he came to an evil conclusion. "I killed them," he said with a grin. "No!" yelled Ada with turmoil and anguish. Skidell roared with laughter and moved to pull the trigger, but found he couldn't. His glee ended as his arm started to pull back towards his face. He pressed the gun to his head against his will. Fear reflected in his eyes as he looked at Ada and realized she was doing this to him. He dropped to his knees. "You're a mind mage," he realized all too late. "Yes," said Ada with venom, struggling against tears and shuddering as she was flexing muscles she had let grow weary with time. Amora didn't understand what her parents were doing, but she knew it was good. "Kill him," she told her mother. Teddy nodded in agreement. At that, Ada realized what she was doing, what she was teaching her children. Bryn retrieved the gun from Skidell, and Ada released him from her mental assault. "Run as far as you can, monster," warned Bryn. Skidell stood and took a step back, then changed his mind and wrapped up Bryn in a hold, sticking the punching dagger into his ribs. "No!" He released Bryn, and the blacksmith fell onto his face. Ada collapsed in despair. Skidell ran away before she could decide to kill him again, chuckling in his sinister laughter as he went. Thank you for listening. I'm Bryce Newberger, and this has been the Kinship Chronicles, Children of the Phoenix. If you enjoyed what you heard and you'd like to purchase the full book, then either look up New Books on the Google Play bookstore, NEU Books, or simply click the link in the description. The book is only $5, and I appreciate your support.